Good evening. Hi,
Hi.
Angie.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am beside myself. I am beside myself because I am getting to be here with you again. Once again, this is the second time we've had a conversation.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but before we get into it, we got to do the proper things, right?
Yes.
So let's do the thing. So welcome to our debut Buzz Pick of the Month author event. We're thrilled to have Angie Thomas joining us to talk about her new novel, our February Buzz Pick, Concrete Rose. Throughout the conversation, feel free to use the Q&A box to send in a question. We'll have a Q&A portion at the end with some of the questions you've already submitted and some that we take from the box there. Closed captioning is also available at the bottom of your screen. So for those of you who don't know Angie, let me tell you just a teach, because we only got an hour. Angie Thomas is an award-winning author, as well as a producer, a speaker, and a former teen rapper. We might have to talk about that to teach. Her debut novel, The Hate You Give, explores how 16-year-old Star finds her voice in the wake of the fatal shooting of her childhood best friend at the hands of a police officer. The Hate You Give was an immediate New York Times bestseller and became a major motion picture from Fox. Angie went on to write On the Come Up, an ode to hip hop that also became a New York Times bestseller and led to a film in development with Paramount Pictures, in which Angie is the producer. Her new novel, Concrete Rose, is a prequel to The Hate You Give and brings readers back into the world of Garden Heights through the eyes of a teenage maverick Carter, who you might remember from The Hate You Give as Star's father. His story and his voice provides a vivid exploration of Black young adulthood, of manhood, and of fatherhood. Concrete Rose is on sale now if you don't have one, and it's available at your local independent bookstore. If you don't have a local indie bookstore yet, please visit indiebound.org and find an indie in your area. Shopping locally makes a big difference, not just to the small business, but to your community. So support them with your dollars, get to know your community, and get a book while you at it. We're excited to see also so many of our IndieBookBuzz and Bookfinity followers here tonight. And for those of you who haven't joined those communities yet, you can find them on Instagram and at thebookfinity.com, where you can take a reader type quiz. Angie took it, and her quiz type is young at heart. I took it, and I got lifelong learner with a sprinkle of spiritual seeker. And what that quiz will do, it will pair titles with that will complement your unique personality. So be sure to follow, be sure to join, have some fun as we talk about Buzz Pick of the Month. And that, guess what? This is a series, and this is our first one. So this is about to be epic. All right, ma'am.
All right.
How you feeling?
I'm doing pretty well. We had a snowstorm here and it shut everything down last week, and now it's like 60 or so and sunny. It's just 2021 doing its thing.
It's just this, you know, there is just nothing to be unexpected. We just rolling with it at this point, right? Just
Yes.
kind of going with it and like, okay, we'll see what tomorrow brings. Well, let's
Yes.
talk about this book a little bit. So I'm excited because it's been out, and so a lot of people have had the opportunity to read it. But for those who haven't, why did you decide to write this book in particular, going back to Garden Heights, and why this title?
Well, I had no plans of writing this book when I finished The Hate You Give. I thought I was done with those characters. I thought that was it. I thought that was final goodbye. But once I got out on the road and got to meet readers and received emails and private messages from readers, there was one character that everyone seemed to love the most, and that was Maverick. Maverick in The Hate You Give, he's this wonderful father. He's a wonderful pillar of the community. He's a wonderful husband. And we know too that he has a past, that he was once a drug dealer, he was once a gang member, and that doesn't line up with the Maverick we see, as an adult. And so many people wanted to know, how did he become that person? How did he become that man? And I started thinking about it myself even more so. Um, And once I got a chance to really have conversations with Russell Hornsby, who portrayed Maverick in the
Yeah.
film, he would ask me things no one else had. He would ask me things about Maverick's family, as far as his mom and his dad and his parents, and
Mhm.
who influenced him the most growing up, stuff like that. And I started thinking of it myself. I had to come up with answers on the spot, and because those weren't things I'd thought about. So I'd come up
Right.
with answers. Then when he wasn't looking, I would write it down somewhere, like in my phone, like, as a little note for later, because I'm like, this sounds pretty good. So looking over all those notes, having those conversations, I felt I owed it to myself to explore this story, but I thought it would be a nice thing for my readers to see too. Because there's this idea almost that Maverick is a unicorn. And I'm like, no, there are real
Yeah.
Mavericks out there,
Yeah.
It may not line up with what you think of as a great father, great husband, but there are plenty of men, Black men specifically, who turned their lives around and are doing the best that they know how for their families,
Mhm.
and for their communities. And we don't talk about that enough.
Yeah.
So it just felt right to tell his story. And the title, Concrete Rose, went back to Tupac. The Hate You Give was heavily influenced by Tupac.
Mhm.
And even me naming the neighborhood Garden Heights was influenced by a poem Tupac wrote as a teenager called The Rose That Grew from Concrete.
Mhm.
And it was an autobiographical poem about himself. And the gist of it is about seeing a rose growing in the crack in the concrete and being in awe that something so beautiful could come from such harsh circumstances.
Mhm.
And those are the kids I like to write about. Those are the kids I write about. Those are the kids I think about when I write. And Maverick is definitely what Tupac would call a rose that grew from concrete. He comes from very harsh circumstances, but there's so much beauty, strength, and resilience in him that I just wanted to remind people of that.
I loved it. Like you said, this not a unicorn. I had one of those. My
Mhm,
dad was right as I was reading his story and reading how he was with his mother, reading how he was with some of the older men in the neighborhood, which those stories are gold. And as our communities change and shift, what do you
yeah,
think people can take from seeing how those neighborhoods actually function? Because,
mhm,
honestly, when they look at the news, they see a
mhm,
soundbite, they see a clip, and it's a
mhm,
statistic. It's not a people, it's not a community, it's
mhm.
not this loving atmosphere, but it's there and we know it.
We absolutely know it. And that's something I've always set out to reveal with my stories. Reveal us as people and humanize us more, because when you see a community and you make judgments about an entire community based off of one video clip on the news, you're dehumanizing tons of
Mm,
people.
mhm,
And that's not fair. As someone who grew up in a neighborhood like Garden Heights, a neighborhood that was known for all the wrong reasons, was it rough? Yes, but there was so much love there. My neighbors were my family. They're still my family, and I've been away from the neighborhood for a few years now.
mhm.
There was so much love. I had a village that helped
Yeah,
raise me,
yeah.
and I wanted to show that with Maverick. One of the main reasons a young man like him could come out of the situations he's in and come out of it so beautifully is because of that village.
Mhm.
It takes those people investing in him and working in that soil that surrounds him and putting the seeds there that helps him to grow. So I hope that it makes people think twice, about those communities, and I hope that it further changes their perspectives of people who live in communities like that. Just because you're in poverty doesn't mean that you don't deserve respect. You don't
Right.
deserve to be humanized. You don't deserve dignity.
Mhm.
And that's something we're still fighting for.
It was the great Cicely Tyson who just passed. She
Mhm.
talked a lot about that in her memoir,
Yeah.
about how she made conscious choices based on some conversations where people just were living and categorized people based on a soundbite, not in exactly who they are.
Yeah.
I was looking at your social media the other day and I saw that Dr. Jill Biden picked up one of your books. Um,
Yeah. Yes.
and she added after finding it on a reading list. How do you think some of the situations that happened this past year
Mhm.
have affected people being able to find your books more readily and understanding some of the things that you're trying to come across?
It definitely has. The heartbreaking part about writing a book like The Hate You Give is that when another Black person loses their life at the hands of injustice, police brutality, whatever it may be, there's suddenly a discussion, there's a lot of discourse, and suddenly more people are picking up my book than ever before.
Mhm.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it shouldn't take someone dying for you to pay attention,
Mhm.
because these are conversations we've been having for decades. We can go even longer than that if we want to, but
You could.
I'll just at least keep it to decades, you know? But I'm thankful that people are paying attention. I'm thankful that we're having these discussions now. You
Mhm.
know, I was watching right before this, there was a rerun of Dr. Phil on, and they were talking about racial profiling. And he
Mhm.
had several Black people on the show who had been racially profiled.
Mhm.
And like, we're having these conversations on the mainstream level now.
Mhm.
So I'm thankful for that. But I want people to do more than just read the book. I want your perspectives changed, your mind changed. I want you to have some empathy, but I also want you to take some action. There are things we can do in our own communities to help fix this, to help change this.
Mhm.
Accountability, and calling for accountability. Being thoughtful and mindful of these things when you vote, all of that makes a difference. So it's bittersweet. It's very bittersweet. And I could just hope that my biggest hope for The Hate You Give specifically is that one day that book is irrelevant,
Mhm.
that one day Black kids pick that book up and they're like, it was like this?
Right.
Black people were racially profiled? Police brutality? What is that?
Mhm.
I,
Mhm.
I long for that day, the same way that kids now read books about the 1960s and they're like, colored fountain, back of the bus. What is this? I want that same thing.
Telephones.
I know telephones. We
Tele-
were just talking about that. How they're like, if you ask a kid nowadays, act like you're holding a phone and they
Right.
do this, whereas most of us are used to doing this. So I want The Hate You Give to become this.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, when I read Concrete Rose, and I love that, I love how it moves into this space. Because one, you oftentimes don't get that perspective of an adult as a child. So you
Yeah.
see this path. All the pieces aren't filled in, but like you did, you just start filling in bits of the story. But it also helps young people realize that what is this moment is not your whole totality of existence.
Right.
And things change and you
Right.
evolve, the people around you evolve.
Mhm.
And that is what makes this novel feel so hopeful to me. Can you talk about some of that hope that's off in this book?
Yeah, that was so important to me. Whenever I write, the main people I think about are the ones who are going to pick up this book and see themselves in this character. Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop says that books are either mirrors, windows, or sliding glass doors. And I focus on the mirror aspect whenever I'm writing. I think about the mirror the most. And I wanted the young Mavericks, whether they just became a father or they're, in a juvenile detention center, I want them to pick this up and see some hope.
Yeah.
And the best way I could infuse hope in this book was by bringing in love. Maverick is so loved. It's tough love at times, but
Mhm.
he is so loved by his mom,
Mhm.
by his father, who is incarcerated, but loves him as best as he can,
Mhm.
and by Mr. Wyatt, who lives next door to him.
Mhm.
And then by his cousin Dre. He has so much love surrounding him, and that's what
Yeah.
so many of our kids need. And I hope that my book reminds them of the power of that. I hope that my book shows them that there can be people in their lives who care so much about them,
Mhm.
and that it can make a huge difference in them. But I also hope that it reminds the adults who read it that there are kids out there who need you to care about them, who need
Yeah.
that love from you, that tough love at times, but that love, that care, that support, it can
Mhm.
make a huge difference. So, yeah, I hope that the real Mavericks get some hope from it, but I hope that the adults, the real Mr. Wyatts out there, feel a call to duty.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to the conversation about community
Mhm.
and what that looks like and how that evolves. How do you see community evolving in a pandemic, a panorama, a pandemonium? I mean, the Ponderosa, we got some
the,
stuff going on.
the panini in the panini. We're having to rethink what it looks like nowadays.
Yeah.
I think it's still possible though. I think the main thing about community is love and support. And I still feel so much love and support, even though I haven't seen some of my friends in over a year now. Sometimes it's simply checking in on each other. And somebody's having a rough day, they text you saying, I'm having a rough day, calling them or sending them a gift, giving them a gift, sending the mail, stuff like that. To there are ways to still have a sense of community. When it comes to young people right now, so many of them need to know that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have to remind that. So many of them need us to encourage them as far as getting help for mental health. So many of them need us to be open about mental health. I
Yeah.
think one of the biggest things as a community we can do right now for kids, teenagers, is tell them ourselves, we're not okay. We're still trying to figure this out. We have
Yeah.
to stop pretending like we have it all together, because
Mhm.
we don't. And we
Mhm.
need to let these kids know it's
Mhm.
okay that we're still figuring it out too.
Yeah.
Because they look at us and they think, oh, it's not okay if I'm struggling because mom, dad, or auntie,
Mhm.
uncle, whoever, they got it all together. No, they don't. So I think one of the biggest keys for community right now is all of us admitting we're messed up right now. And none of us, and we're scared and we're
Yeah.
frustrated and we're tired and we're exhausted. And
Yeah.
having these open conversations about that can give these kids the support that they need. So right now, community looks like love and support.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I'm thinking, speaking of my Maverick, what he and I used to do is we used to read books together.
Mm,
And we would just sit around and he would read it and then I would read it and then we would talk about how we felt about it and what was going on and did I understand this and did I understand that. And
mhm,
that is something that I did with my daughter when she was
mhm.
coming up. And I think just having those connections, and it's also a good
Yes,
way of storytelling, because of African
yes,
Americans, we know our storytelling family history is complicated. It's very
yes,
complicated. So being
yes.
able to share that time and that story and having that
Yes.
back and forth conversation, and your books are so good for that. I said,
Yes.
I am of a certain age. I am certified auntie. Um, so just being able to share this back in the day with young people to go, and I was there. I
Mhm.
remember when this was happening. And that's a way of connecting our culture and our
Yes.
history, our family history, our cultural history to our young people. And I thank you
Yes.
for that, because sometimes it's
Mhm.
hard to do that with nonfiction. Let's just be
Mhm.
honest. I
Mhm.
mean, there's a place for both, but sometimes, like you said, fiction can be that beautiful mirror, that beautiful gateway where you can see yourself and your family. And
Yeah.
I know that your mom was taking you to the library on the regular.
Yeah.
So did that have an effect on you and your writing process, thinking about those
Absolutely.
times?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Books were really helped save my life. I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for the fact that my mom took me to the library all those
With you?
years. Yeah, yeah, I
Mhm.
wouldn't. I wouldn't. And if nothing else, books allowed me to see beyond my circumstances. They allowed me to see beyond my own life,
Yeah.
beyond my world. And in doing that, they gave me hope because I knew that there was more out there. I don't think enough of us realize how many kids have such a limited view.
Yes.
There
Yes.
there are kids in communities that have never seen the downtown area of their city. They've never seen skyscrapers.
Hmm.
There are kids in Compton, California right now who've never seen the beach, and it's a
Hmm.
drive away. There
Hmm.
are kids in rural Indiana who have never seen beyond their own town. So
Hmm.
many of our kids have a limited view.
Hmm.
And even if you can't afford to put a child on a plane and show them the world, you can give them a book. And by doing
Absolutely.
that, you're showing them the world. So that's the reason I can write. That's the reason I can tell stories. That's the reason I can do what I do, because I was given keys that allowed me to see beyond what was just in front of me. So
Mhm.
I'm a firm believer in giving kids as many books as possible, but also I wish that we would allow kids to read what it is they want to read.
Yes. Yeah.
Graphic novels are novels.
Mhm.
period. Graphic novels are novels.
Mhm.
If this kid wants to read a video game, a book about like how to play a video game, let them, as long as they're reading. Right now, that's what it's about. It's about fostering that love of reading.
Yeah.
And to do that, you got to let them read things they love.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, the experimentation, and we think about literacy in such a narrow way.
mhm.
And being able to allow children to just open up and do it. I remember back in the day enjoying my cereal boxes quite a bit.
Yeah.
Um, and looking at that and reading as much as I am, I'm an adult that not a day goes by that I don't read. And so when people tell me they don't read, I'm like, what you do all day?
Yeah.
Right? This is the same thing, like,
Yeah.
what you do all day? I just,
And so many of us are reading, and we're like reading Twitter. And I'm like, you cannot judge a kid for reading a graphic novel when you read like 240 character tweets all day.
all
It's
day.
like, just no. And it's right now, especially, none of us are able to go places like we'd love to.
Yeah.
Books are even more important right now than ever.
Yeah.
Books,
Yeah.
kids need them, especially to remind them that there's more to the world than this.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
You were talking earlier about being okay with not being okay.
Hmm.
And I know that you're a wonderful and strong advocate for mental health.
Yes.
So I would like you to talk a little bit about that, and maybe talk a little bit about Kobe.
I got new Kobe pictures today too. I have to show y'all.
Oh,
Um,
yay.
yeah, yeah. I When The Hate You Give first came out and blew up like it did, it literally turned my life upside down. And I'm sure everybody's like, oh, that's got to be so awesome, so awesome. But literally, when just imagine your life being turned upside down and your normal being changed. Like, everybody's dealing with this new normal now. About
Right.
3 years ago, 4 years ago, however long it's been, I had to suddenly deal with a new normal of being recognized and having a platform and doing events and traveling every week, this and this. And it took a huge toll on my mental health, to the point I was like this close to a nervous breakdown.
Oh, honey.
And I sought help. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm in therapy. I am thankful for my therapist. I got on anxiety medicine, and that was a huge breakthrough for me. And I want young people, especially, to know there is nothing wrong with talking to someone.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with saying I'm not okay. In fact, that's the strongest thing you can say.
Mhm.
And we need to have these conversations more, because so many of us, especially in the Black community, we've stigmatized mental health and all of this and that, and we make it seem as if there's something wrong with us if we're weak all of a sudden. We don't have to be strong all the time. And I want to push back on that. One of my biggest regrets with The Hate You Give was not showing Star getting help for mental health, because she's dealing
Mhm.
with PTSD. And
Mhm.
I wish I would have had her talk to somebody. I wish I would have shown that on page, because it could have affected a lot of kids and normalized that for them. So now, though, I talk about it a lot. And now I'm in the process of getting my Kobe. I dropped something. It's okay.
It's
But
okay.
like, I'm in the process of getting my first dog. His name is Kobe. And he's being trained to be a therapy dog. So he's not with me right now. He's at what I call dog warts. But this is Kobe.
Oh, so
He's he's a little
precious.
schnoodle. And yeah, he's being trained to be a therapy dog, not just for me,
Yeah.
but for other people. I'm going to, once this pandorama calms down, I want to take him into children's hospitals. I want to take him into nursing homes, and possibly even juvenile detention centers if I'm allowed, because we don't talk about the mental health of kids in those places nearly enough either. So
Right.
yeah, I'm a huge proponent for it.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. You just make me so happy.
Thank you.
Like I said, I'm certified auntie level, so I can say that. And mean it sincerely from all of my being.
Thank you. Thank you.
So even though you didn't write it in the book, you still have your platform and you're still talking about it. You're still sharing it.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're trying, once the, Pandadose is over, you're going to go out and talk to people and go to these wonderful places and share. That is so important. I mean, you are becoming the community for so many people, like the community was there for you, which is a gift. And we are so grateful to have you. For those who don't know, can you talk about the books in connection and how they are or aren't a series? Because there are
Mm.
some people who think they have to read them in a certain order. Is that true?
Yeah, you don't have to. You can read them in whichever order you want. Honestly, especially with The Hate You Give and Concrete Rose, I'd probably read The Hate You Give first, then Concrete Rose,
Okay.
because I think you get a richer experience if you do. Like, some there'll be more oh moments if you do it that
Yeah.
way. Yeah, yeah. But I wouldn't call it a series, like, especially with Bree's story,
Mhm.
it takes place in the same neighborhood, but these two girls don't know each other, have never met.
Mhm.
Their paths don't cross in the books, and they have two very different lives. And it was important for me to show that,
Yeah.
because not all Black people know each other, even when we live in the same neighborhood. We're not all related, we're not all kin. It doesn't work like that. So it was important for me to give Bree her own story and her own slice of that world, that neighborhood. So that, I wouldn't say that's a series. And as far as Maverick's story, I feel like it's so different from Stars,
Yeah.
that it can stand on its own. You can read Concrete Rose without ever reading The Hate You Give. And that was important for me,
Yeah.
because it's Maverick's story,
Right.
independent of his daughters, and Star's story is hers, independent of her dad's. So
Yeah.
again, if you want to read them together, go for it. I appreciate it, but you don't have to.
Yeah. I love that. So I do have a question.
Mhm.
So we know since the beginning of writing in books, men have written from the point of view of women, trees, dogs, turtles, flowers, bushes, whatever. No
Yeah.
problem. But here you are
Mhm.
writing as a man from
Mhm.
a male perspective. Angie, how dare you? How do you feel about that? What do you have to say for
Ooh,
yourself?
you know, it was a weird place to be in a 17-year-old boy's head for several months. Like, that was an interesting place to be in. I started trying to see the world as Maverick would see it, like, as far as, like, even politics and stuff. Like, for a 17-year-old kid who's watching, this press conference or this, that,
Right,
of certain former leaders, how would Maverick react at that point,
right.
But I will never tell people that you can't write an identity that isn't your own, because I'm just not gonna say that. Here I am, I did it. I
Mhm,
would say, if you do it, one, ask yourself, why am I the person to tell this story? Should I be the person to tell this story?
mhm.
And then ask yourself, am I willing to do the work? And that's what I had to do.
That's it.
I had to talk to Black men and Black boys. I had to
Mhm,
read books by Black men about Black boys. And I even
mhm.
spoke to some of my fellow writers who write about Black boys who are Black women. It was so important for me to get that. And it
Mhm.
was so important for me to let them, Black men and Black boys, read it before anybody else,
Oh,
to make sure that
nice.
I was doing it right.
Yeah,
Because if you're going to write about someone unlike yourself, respect the people who will see themselves in this enough to get their
absolutely.
feedback. And the book is so much better for it.
Yeah.
Honestly, the book is so much better for it, because there were times where I let things society tell me get in my way. Like, for instance, when it comes to Maverick being vulnerable or sensitive on the page. At first, I was like, should I show him crying? Because Black boys are always like, I can't cry, I can't cry. And I had Black men say, no, show him doing that, to give them
Mhm,
that permission.
mhm,
We
mhm.
do cry when nobody's looking, maybe, but we need that permission more. We
Right.
need that normalized more.
Mhm.
Because when you think about it, how often do you see in media Black men or Black boys crying? Like, just I hadn't thought about it, but when
Mhm.
I think about a lot of movies or shows, I don't know of a whole lot of instances where we even get those scenes with Black men,
Mhm.
and that's a shame.
It is.
So I'm thankful that I had those conversations with them, where they told me of the importance of that, because it wasn't something that had crossed my mind. So
Mhm.
perspective is so important,
Yeah.
and getting that feedback is so necessary, and you'll be
Mhm.
better for it.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for saying that, because we all have some level of bias. It's
Hmm.
impossible to live in society and not have
Yeah.
it, but you did the work, which is pretty much all we're ever asking people to do.
Yeah.
Just do the work. If
Yeah.
somebody said something or have a question, just don't shoot off, just come
No.
back, do some
No.
work, think about their perspective.
Right. We all have this fear of being wrong, and we have this fear of offending others, but
Mhm.
be more like, it's like I tell people about racism. Stop being so afraid of being called racist and be more afraid of being racist.
Mhm.
And it's the same mind frame of
Yeah.
stop being so afraid of being called wrong and be more afraid of being wrong.
Yeah.
It's just about shifting, making that shift.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we all got something.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We all do. We all
Like my
do.
pastor said, we all got an ism that we working through.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you talk about love, and I'm gonna just read just one little bit, because I think I did that last time, because I just love your writing so much.
Thank
And
you.
you were talking about his vulnerability and his tears, but there is just one little paragraph on 175 where it's nap time.
Mm,
And let me tell you, I teared up a little bit. I had to take a moment. So I was
mm,
like, I'm gonna share this with the universe because this is so sweet. So this is Maverick and his son, and these are Maverick's thoughts. He
mhm.
says, he yawns and lays down on me, nap time creeping up on him. I stay this way a minute. I like listening to him breathe and feeling his chest rise against mine. He don't know I'm tired all the time or that I'm technically a kid. He just know that I got him. Mm, mm. When we like this, I ain't gotta know a whole lot either. I just know that I love him and I kiss his temples so he'll know it. Oh, oh, okay. So, so that's another aspect of the Black male experience and their vulnerability. This is
Yeah.
love. This is not a
Yeah.
sexualized love.
Mm-mm.
This is love. And
Mhm.
this type of love, we don't get to see often. How was it
No.
writing scenes like this in this book where this boy man is
Mhm.
with his boy and
Mhm.
experiencing this kind of love and expressing this kind of love in this many words? So beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. It was so important for me to show those moments. I followed, like, over the course of writing this book, I followed several accounts on Instagram with like Black fathers.
Mhm.
And this is another one of those stereotypes, Black fathers don't exist. Yes, they do. In
Mhm.
fact, the studies show that they're more involved in their kids' lives than any other demographic, but
That
nobody
is
talks
true.
about that.
That
and
is
and
true.
they can be some of the most loving and tender fathers that
Yep.
you will ever come across. But we
Mhm.
don't see that. Again, we don't see that on screen enough. We don't see that in even books enough.
Yeah.
And I knew that if Maverick is surrounded by love, he's going to pour out love too.
Yeah.
And we see that in The Hate You Give, and we see that side of him with his children then as an adult. So I knew it has to be there even when he's a young father still trying to figure
Yeah.
this out. He's there because he loves his son. He
Mhm.
works hard trying to figure things out because he loves his son. He gets frustrated with it all, but at the end, he loves his son. There's
Mhm.
so much love for that child there. And again, that's something we don't see enough of. And it goes towards humanizing Black boys and Black men. They are capable of love. They are capable of tender moments. They
Mhm.
aren't threats. They aren't things that go bump in the night. They are human beings with a wide range of emotions.
Mhm.
And they show that love and they have that tenderness. So yeah, I loved writing those moments. I've never had a child. I'm not a parent.
Mhm.
And so, but I do know love. If I don't know, I had to find out some stuff that I had never known about babies before, and I'm like, oh, but other I know love. I don't know, I don't know how much you're supposed to feed them and how many times, but I do know love. So
Yeah.
that was easy to insert.
Yeah, it really comes across in just beautiful, simple words that I love. Because sometimes people think you got to make everything super fancy,
Nah.
use bigger words, use those college grad school words, and you're able to communicate in such a way that everybody can get it. So there's no excuse as far as I'm concerned for this bad behavior. But anyway, so reading that brought me a lot of joy and happiness. What is bringing you joy and happiness right now?
Right now, I'm in I'm in a very public transition phase right now. I'm sure some people watch, they know what I'm talking about. Like there was a whole lot of stuff the past week that like I had to make some changes career wise, as far as with my literary agent and this like that. And it was very public. And the last week was rough. But what's giving me joy right now is not to be promotional, but it's the next project I'm working on. It's giving me so much joy right now. It's a middle grade fantasy novel. And, one thing I was grateful for during 2020 was the ability to escape 2020 by writing a book set in 98 and 99. When I was writing Concrete Rose, there's no social distancing, no mask, no COVID, no social media, no politicians on Twitter. There was none of that. Maverick, when he wanted to leave notes for Lisa or something, he couldn't text her. He had to leave them in a mailbox, old school, caller ID, all of that,
Oh, the memories.
Yes. So it was an escape. And I've had a lot of people, especially educators, ask me, are you going to write a book set in 2020 about this stuff right now? And I'm like, I'm not far away from it right now to write about it. I'm not. I need space from this. Let me get all vaccinated up, go hit the beach a couple of times, then maybe I'll think about writing about it. But right now, let me not. I'm in the thick of it. Right. But one thing that I started working on was this fantasy novel. And I'm not going to try to spoil it too much, but I will say I'm able to create the world that I wish existed specifically for Black kids through this fantasy world that I'm building. There was a lot of talk this summer about abolishing prisons and defunding the police and a world without police, and people want to say that's impossible. But I've been reading all the different work of certain abolitionists like Angela Davis, and reading about how it is possible to have that world. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but it is possible to have a world where there's no prison and no police. And more specifically for me, I want a world where Black kids don't have to worry about being profiled, where Black kids don't have to worry about being judged and all of this by the color of their skin. Right. And so I'm creating that in this fantasy world that I'm putting together. So it's all of these things these discussions we've had about Black liberation and this and that, it's fueling me in crafting this world. And it is the escape I need, but I hope it gives young people, I've given up on current generation. So I hope that it gives the next generation a view of what our world can look like, and more importantly, a view of a world that they deserve.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was really interesting to me as well to see just the resurgence of Afrofuturism. And how many people were like, this is brand new. And I'm like, oh, no,
it's not. Where y'all been?
It's been a minute. And that there are towns that were founded by slaves in South America and in other places that don't have police. They've never have. They've existed just fine. And so that is exciting. I also happen to know that you got another project that got announced a minute ago as well with some friends of yours.
Yes, Blackout. I'm really excited about Blackout. It gave me joy in 2020 as well. It comes out in June, and it's me, Nick Stone, Nicola Yoon, Tiffany Jackson, Ashley Woodfolk, and Danielle Clayton. And it takes place over the course of a blackout in New York City, and it follows several different kids and their little love stories in the midst of this blackout. So I'm really excited about that. We revealed the cover earlier today, and we have some even bigger news coming soon. I can't wait to share with everybody. I can't say anything because they probably have like a sniper waiting just in case I spill, but because it's that big of a deal. But I'm excited for people to see what we have planned for this.
Oh, that makes me very, very happy. I've been looking forward to this, and I have had so much pleasure watching you and your community, you and your friends. If anyone hasn't seen you and Nick Stone on Instagram, they are missing something.
Angie at night. Yes,
Oh
Angie
my
at
goodness.
night.
It is
Yeah.
just a delight. And it's so full of joy and friendship and support.
Yes.
And I wish more people could have some of that.
Yes, yes. And we know that not a lot of people have it, so we want to hopefully give them a fill them up by showing ours. You know, Nick is
Yeah.
one of my best friends, and we support each other so much through so many different things beyond even just publishing. You
Yeah.
know, and it's nothing but love there. And we love to get on there and talk, especially, because we can't see each other like, we're used to seeing each other. So we
Right.
started doing the Instagram lives as a way to connect, but also to still connect with our readers as well. So it's
Yeah.
been fun. I'm surprised we haven't been told by our publisher, stop getting on there. Because, it gets not at nighttime. We get a little wild with some of the stuff we talk about. But, I know I'm a kid's lit writer technically, but I'm an adult, you
Young
know.
adult. Young
I'm an adult.
adult.
Yeah, I'm an adult. So sometimes we talk about some stuff and get a little real. But it's been a joy. I enjoy it.
And I think that authenticity is what keeps people coming back to you as a person. I think what keeps them coming back to you as a novelist. So I know they're going to be looking forward to getting this glimpse into your future for young Black students and people. Quickly, tell me some of the authors that you enjoy and hang out with. We know Nick, but who
Mhm.
else? Who else are your people?
Yeah, all the ladies of Blackout that I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
I think Danielle just texted me a few minutes ago. She gotta wait. Let's see.
Thank you.
Jason Reynolds. Jason Reynolds, I absolutely
Whew.
adore. Jason
Yeah,
is the big brother I never had. Jason
nice.
checks on me. I check on him. Every time I see Jason, he's like, "Let me hold $20." No, sir.
Well, that's definitely big brotherish
Oh,
right there.
it's he's such a big brother. It's the way he trolls me. He is such a big brother. Like, when Concrete Rose hit #1 on the New York Times list, he texts me like, "Hey, congrats, sis." I'm like, "Thank you, thank you." He like, "Yeah, you can let me hold 40 now, sir." So yeah, I love Jason. I adore Jason. Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera have always been dear
Nice.
friends of mine. They were some of
Yeah.
the first authors I ever had a chance to connect with, and I'm really appreciative of them through all of this chaos known as publishing. And then too, Elizabeth Acevedo, Justin
Yeah,
Reynolds, all these different authors. There's a great community there.
I love
Especially
it.
for us marginalized folks, we've created a great community of support and love because we know that in an industry where for a long time there weren't a lot of us, it's important for us to support one another,
Mhm,
and that's
mhm.
something we take very seriously. So I'm thankful to know the people that I know.
I'm happy to hear that. And yes, there is a Justin and there's
Yeah,
a
and
Jason.
adjacent. Yes,
They're
they're
two
two
different
different
people.
people. There it can be two Black men authors with J names and Reynolds as the last name. They're two different people, and they get tagged in each other's reviews all the time on social media. And so Justin just laughs about it this time when somebody's like, "Man, I love Long Way Down." He's like, "Thank you, thank you. I thought that was a good one too." You know.
And then does he call Jason and be like, "Hey, give me 10 of that 20." Because clearly,
I'm promoting your books. You need to help me out. So
exactly. So those books, that author community have also, I think, been really supported in independent bookstores,
yes.
because independent bookstores have always had that kind of flexibility that sometimes the bigger box stores didn't have. So
Yes.
I know we've talked about libraries, but how have independent bookstores really kind of played in your experience as an author?
Oh, a huge, huge influence. Like my local indie bookstore, Lemuria. I basically almost have them on speed dial.
Nice.
They have been so supportive from the very beginning when nobody knew my name, when I just signed with my agent.
Wow.
They've been supportive from jump, and I'm so thankful for them.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful for all the indies. I have nothing but great experiences with them, and I love the personal connection you get at an indie bookstore.
Yeah.
Nothing against, the big boxes, but there's something about walking in an indie. you know, and find and a bookseller coming up to you and asking, how are you? And then you telling them you are looking for a book, and the way their eyes light up,
Light up.
like, there's nothing like it. And I think it's so important that we continue to support them, especially right now, especially during all of this, places like Amazon, they'll be okay. They'll survive this, trust me. They'll survive, but we have to do what we can to support these independent bookstores. The support that they offer authors is it's unquestionable, and the support that they offer to the community is as well, the programming even that so many of them offer. So I wish everyone who's watching this will make it their business to support their local independent bookstores. They need it right now more than ever, and with my local one. And the good thing about local ones for authors is that we can go in and sign books. So, if one of your favorite authors lives in your town, chances are they've signed books at that bookstore. You can get signed books, and then too, find out which indie bookstores are in your favorite author's hometown, and I bet they have signed copies as well. So it's a great way to support authors. It's a great way to support the community.
Absolutely. And for all the people, again, if you don't have one or you don't know where to find one, go to indiebound.org. They are waiting for you. They are offering a variety of services that will keep you safe. They can ship them to your house. If you don't want to get out, you can get a little rolly cart in the front with your name on it. That's what Parnassus was doing here in Nashville for us, making sure that we could stay safe and still get books and still support our communities, because if people haven't noticed, community is vital to our being able to continue to be whole. And that is, I'm glad that is being a huge amount of focus, because for so many years it's been about the individual. What can I get? How do I, get my bag and, make my money and mine. And now it's like, oh, well, I'm in the house with my money and I'm lonely.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, money is good because, you got light bills to pay, especially after it's cold as it's been. Yes. But in some of that coolness, if you had somebody to snuggle with, it'd be a little bit better.
Yeah. Money can't give you warmth like that, or friendship like that.
Friendship, puppy, family, relationships. Like I said, the sweetness of Maverick listening to his baby's breath. That's just my favorite. Okay, let me calm back down. Art. Let's talk about art, because you're a writer. Your writing is influenced by music. Music is art. Do you see more people starting to make those connections, especially, again, after years of people saying, oh, we don't need arts in the school. That's not important. Everything should be STEM, and that's going to make people successful, not necessarily seeing that connection. So how do you see that shifting?
I hope we see that shifting, because not every kid is going to be a scientist, There's going to be the artists there, and we need the arts, especially. I think this pandemic has shown us, yes, science is definitely important.
Absolutely.
We have to listen to science.
We need science.
Yes, but for even our mental health and our spiritual health and emotional health, arts can play a huge role in that. Like, I think everybody on here has binge watched several shows during the pandemic. And you have to look at the art side of that. You have these actors, these actresses, these writers, all coming together to give you this art, and you see how important it is for the soul's sake. So I hope that we will allow kids to see that there's more than one path in life. There are so many different paths in life, and I hope that we can give these teachers that support that they need more. So, so many arts programs are getting cut. And if you talk to kids right now, especially all these kids doing virtual school, for them, their favorite classes are the ones about art, or with dealing with the arts. It's those are the ones that are giving their brains the stimulation they need, and giving them the break in a way that
Yeah.
they need. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's so important. It's so important. I was this kid once, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a doctor or a writer. And could I have probably gone to medical school? Sure, once I got over my fear of blood. But you know, I recognize too that I have the ability to heal with art, with my
Yes.
words. Just like
Yeah.
it may not be on the same scale as a doctor saving somebody in a surgery, but I can do some work to help people heal.
Yeah.
And it's important as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully we will start to see more importance put on that, especially in education.
Oh, we hope so. Because
Yeah.
you need the camera work, you need the camera
Hmm.
built
Yeah,
to take the picture. You need the printing
absolutely.
presses to print the book. So it's actually a holistic way of looking versus a
Hmm.
compartmentalized way of looking at the world. Once
Hmm.
we start looking at it as a whole, that makes that much more different. And like you said, the doctor and the novelist, there are plenty of people who write and have a variety of skill sets because we
Yes.
are not a monolith, first of all, and we're multifaceted individuals. We have interest in a lot
Yes.
of things, and you see some of those interests bleed over into places, and that's important. That's important. It's
Absolutely.
honoring our whole everything, which
Absolutely.
is, I'm like, come on now, come on now. They're gonna make me start shouting in a minute. Like this is the joy and happiness for me. I was so excited about this. I couldn't
Oh,
even sleep.
oh.
Because I've been a nerd a long time. And I remember when being a nerd wasn't cool.
Hmm.
I'm that old. It's cute now to wear your glasses, to wear, nice frames and all that. I remember when it wasn't cute. I remember people looking at me like, why you read all the time? Like, don't you got nothing else to do? And I'm
Hmm.
like this, look at me now. Look at Angie Thomas. What you doing tonight? Um, So I want to know what excites you. What part of that little Angie that's still in there that somebody was like, I can't believe it. But
Hmm.
now that you're grown, you like, look at me now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. It is still my imagination and
Yeah.
being able to come up with stories, whether that's through books or exploring film and TV.
Mhm.
It's what I tell kids is that, don't stop dreaming, and don't put limits on your dreams, and don't let
Yeah.
other people put limits on your dreams. My
Yeah.
imagination is what's put me in the position that I'm in right now.
Mhm.
And I see how important the imagination is. I used to be sometimes a little daydreamer, and kids would make fun of me for that. I
Mhm.
would write stories, and kids would make fun of me for that. But that same imagination that I had then is now allowing me to write books that millions of people read. It's now allowing me to write shows and movies that hopefully
There
millions
you
of people
go.
will watch. So the imagination is so important.
Yeah.
And I want more parents to encourage it in their kids.
Yeah.
Don't push it away. I love that I still have my childlike sense of wonder, and I still have my kid like side, because now I'm able to write kids books. I'm working on this
Right.
book about a 12-year-old. The fact that I
Yeah.
can still tap into that childlikeness, that's a benefit. So I'm thankful for that. I'm so
Yeah.
thankful for that.
Yeah. That's awesome. How is the transition or the lessons that you learned from writing helping
Mhm.
you as you move into the film industry?
It's helping a lot. Like right before I got on here, I got several. Our casting director sent over several audition tapes for one of the
Oh,
characters, and
wow.
so what I have to do is kind of push aside that writer brain of mine, which is like, is that how I pictured this person or no? I don't
Gotcha.
know if it is. You can't go with that. But
Right.
what I am learning is that side is beneficial in all of this,
Okay.
because I will notice things and pick up on things even in the script that maybe the others producers who aren't writers won't pick up on.
True.
So I'm thankful for that. But I have to be mindful. Well, I have to be careful when I'm writing to not let that side of my brain come in, because
Mhm.
now I'm a producer and now I'm in on conversations about, budget and location and stuff like that. And I
Oh,
cannot write thinking about, how much is this scene going
oh,
to cost to film?
yeah.
that'll be future Angie's problem. You just need to get the book done. You
Right.
know, she may be mad at you later, but you just get this story done. You get this done right now. Don't worry about that. So
Yeah.
I'm still learning how to shut that part of my head up.
I like that is so cool. That's so exciting for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
I'm excited.
Oh, okay. Let me think. What could I ask you that would be fun? Like, I've already been mixing in some of the Q&A questions and everything, but I think the question I would like to ask you now is about rapping, because if I remember correctly, you were in a magazine
Yeah.
looking all fresh and all fly. And yeah, young lady, I
Was
got
I
a
really?
question.
Was I really? I look back at that picture like, oh, was I really looking fresh and fly? Are you being nice right now? You sure about that?
Oh, believe me, I am all for it, because I was remembering that time like, oh yeah, that was the outfit. Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah, back then,
So
yeah.
tell us about your rap persona, and tell us of your top 5 rappers.
Oh, I did not have a real rap persona. I was still trying to figure out like who I was, who I wanted to be as an artist, all of that. I was still trying to figure me out.
Mhm.
So, I didn't I was just writing stuff to write and to be able to express myself, you know. But I'm thankful for hip hop because it gave me permission to write the stories I write now.
Yeah.
Rappers showed me how beautiful storytelling can be, especially when it's talking about things that I see every day.
Yeah.
Rappers gave me permission to be raw and authentic and real. You know why kids love hip hop? Because hip hop doesn't shy away from things, and it doesn't hold back, whereas the adults in their lives do so often. So that's a
Yeah.
word to keep in mind, parents. If you don't tell them, rappers will.
Mhm.
So I have those conversations. But as far as my favorite rappers, I can't put my top 5 in any order. I mean, everybody would probably know that Tupac is in my top 5,
Of
but
course.
also there's going to be Lauryn Hill in my top 5.
Okay.
Andre 3000 of Outkast is definitely
Yeah.
in my
Lyrics.
top. Yes,
Lyrics for days.
lyrics for days. I
Mhm.
love Andre 3000,
Mhm.
and as a
Yeah.
Southerner,
Yeah.
I adore what he did for us. What Outkast period did for us.
Yeah.
My
True.
other would have to be Left Eye from TLC. Everybody knows I'm a huge TLC fan. And like, so I throw her in there because of how she saved my life. Like literally saved my life.
Oh,
I don't
tell.
okay. Oh, and I don't know who my last will probably be Jay-Z or Nas. But anyway, but when I was about 15, well, when I was in middle school, I was bullied really bad. So bad that my mom pulled me out of school, public school, and homeschooled me. So all
Mm.
these kids complaining about doing school on the computer, Angie was doing it on the computer about 15 years ago.
Ooh,
Uh,
on a big
so
thick computer at that.
uh-huh. Yes. So I was homeschooled, but I was still, even after my mom took me out of school, I was still dealing with the PTSD from the severe bullying to
Mm.
the point that one day I almost tried to take my life.
Oh.
And I was in the bathroom and I had my little Walkman CD player. I actually still have the Walkman CD player. And I had TLC's CD in, and their song Waterfalls came on. And Left Eye's rap came on, and the line about
Hey.
dreams are hopeless aspirations and hopes are coming true.
Mhm.
Believe in yourself, the rest is up to me and you. It struck me. And I realized that if I hurt myself, if I harm myself, if I take my life, I won't be here to see my dreams come true. I have all these dreams
Mm.
and I won't be able to see them come true.
Mm.
So I left out the bathroom and I told my mom about how I had been contemplating harming
Mm.
myself, but how that song had helped me. And my mom, being my mom, she's like, well, if the song helped you like that, I can only imagine what talking to her would help you, how that would help you. Now you got to keep in mind, this was like 2001. TLC was still huge. They just come
Right.
off of No Scrubs, all of that. So like
Right.
they're the biggest girl group in the world. My mom goes on AskJeeves.com and somehow gets the phone number to Left Eye Studio, which turned out to be in her house. So
Wow.
my mom calls Lisa Left Eye
Shoot.
Lopez's house And she gets her assistant on the phone. And my mom tells her assistant, I know this is a shot in the dark, but my daughter was so impacted by that rap that she decided not to end her life. And I know if that song helped her,
Oh my
just speaking to
gosh.
Lisa could possibly help her. Could you please, if any way possible, let my daughter talk to her? And so I'm in another room watching TV, and my mom comes in and she's like, someone wants to talk to you. And I'm thinking, oh God, here's a relative from out of town that wants to know, how you doing, baby? You know how
Right.
the old folks be. That's what I thought. So I get the phone, I'm like, hello. And she goes, hey, it's Left Eye. I freaked out.
Oh,
I
honey.
ran around the house screaming my little heart out. Like I was just, that was it for me. And she was like, she asked my mom, is she okay? But I got back on the phone and she was just like, she started it out, the conversation, like, because my mom told her what I'd been dealing with.
Right.
And she started the conversation out real casual, like, so I heard you're a fan. I heard you, you want to rap, blah, blah, blah. Then she was like, I heard that you've been having a hard time. And this woman, probably super busy, but she took the time out right then to listen to this little kid tell her what had been happening to me and how much it affected me. And she was like, look, I don't know you, but I got a feeling you can do something super great, super special. And you can only do that if you stay around. I
Mm,
need you to stay around. Can you promise me that you will? And for her to say that, because she was my idol at the time,
right.
for her to say, I said, yeah, I will. And like she sent me autograph stuff, her CD before it came out, all of this. And a few months later, she passed.
Wow.
And I was heartbroken. But to wrap up this long story, sorry.
That's it.
Um, but when The Hate You Give first came out, one of my first tour stops was in Atlanta. And Lisa's assistant came to my book signing. And
Nice.
she told me, she said, you're doing exactly what she wanted. This was her dream, was to inspire some young person so much that they do something that inspires other people. And she gave me this yellow bandana that Lisa would take with her everywhere for as a good luck charm. And she said, I think she wants you to have it. So I take it with me everywhere. But what happened that day too really is what caught me off guard. Like right after 2 minutes after talking to her assistant, this mom comes up to me with her little black daughter, and she says, my daughter's been having a rough time. She's been getting bullied. She's been to the point of wanting to harm herself, but your book did something for her. If you could just talk to her for a few minutes, I know it would change her life. So that day, the universe aligned, God aligned it so
Yes.
that what Lisa did for me, I was able to do for that young lady
Somebody
that
else.
day. So, as far as I'm concerned, top 5 all time, like greatest, that's because of what she did for me that day. I'm forever grateful. And I want to do what she did. I want to do it for other young people. So,
Oh,
I'm just trying to fulfill Left Eye's dream.
well, honey, I think you are doing exactly that. And
Yeah,
I
y'all, she
just
did more than burn down houses.
look,
Like,
look, because there's more to every story because community matters.
yes.
And oh my goodness, I would love to just keep talking to you forever, but we are actually like 3 minutes
We,
over.
yeah,
But
we're
this
over.
was so good and it was so important. So I'm glad we got it out, but I cannot
Yes.
thank you enough for
Thank you.
joining us this evening. I cannot thank HarperCollins enough for having you and presenting this with us. And thank you to all the people that hung around and listened and interacted with us. I know I didn't get to all your questions. I'm so sorry. This is so good. Well, I just had to do it again another kind of way.
Yes. Yes.
Because we got another book coming. But
Yes.
anyway, stay tuned with IndieBookBuzz and Bookfinity for each buzz pick of the month, because we're going to do this. This was the first one. We're going to keep doing this. And readers, be sure to shop each book at an indie, shop local. Thank you, Angie. This was
Thank
such
you.
a joy.
Thank
As
you.
always, you take care. Best of luck. And I'll be following you on your Instagram because I'm grown.
All right. I will see you there. Thank you all so much.
Okay. Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.